Success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, you Road Growth listeners. Today I have Joe Soltis. He is the founder of ChoiceLocal. I mean, this is the way I'm going to describe it, and Joe's going to probably say more eloquently and describe it in a better manner. Digital marketing for franchises. Thank you, Joe, for being here. Why don't you educate us a little more, maybe dive a little deeper into kind of what that means?
Vinny, sounds great. Great to be with you today. Love the podcast. Wonderful stuff. And what we do is we drive growth for franchise systems. So in my background in the past, I worked at a company called Fathom, and it was a top-ranked advertising agency and Ad Age and all that stuff. And we serve Fortune 500 companies like FedEx and CVS and those types of companies. We delivered enterprise-level, Fortune 500 level growth to those franchises or to those companies. And when I looked at the market, I said, how can you give Fortune 500 level customer service results, strategy, and ROI to small and medium-sized businesses? Because what they're getting in marketing really is garbage compared to what the Fortune 500 are getting. And if you can figure out a way to solve that problem and solve that challenge, you can take over the entire market. And what we discovered is that we can do that in franchising because of the replicability within the franchising model. So we help franchisors attract new franchisees. We help franchisees within a franchise system attract new customers. And then we help franchisors as well as franchisees attract talent to work within their business. And that's all we do. And that's only who we work with. And it's been a great ride. Started as a one-person company. Today we're about 80. We're an Inc. 5000 company, one of the fastest growing companies in the US. And we are on pace to be 600 plus people. And we also launched another business out of this, which I can tell you a little bit more about later. And it's just a fun entrepreneurial story, and look forward to getting into it.
You know, what's funny is, so talking about Fathom, and it's a different Fathom, but one of the last guests I've actually had on here recently started a company called Fathom Video. Totally different company, but just a small world, how one word could be changed a little bit and be a whole brand new company.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I have start getting a pocket of similar professions on here, and I know digital marketing, it's different. You guys have a specialty, and I always love hearing, how would you describe yourself differently? And you kind of already did, yet is there any more in-depth, I guess, of what separates you from other digital marketers?
Oh my goodness. I'll give you a quick little rundown. So we work exclusively with franchise systems, so we know that business better than anybody else. Among that small group, we are the top performing franchise marketing agency. We've been tested against 40 other digital marketing firms. We've beaten all of them to the point when we're looking at actual revenue production, we're 6xing our nearest competitor. Then in addition to that, we also offer a money-back guarantee. We're the first and only franchise marketing agency to offer a money-back guarantee. Imagine working with a marketer. A lot of business owners you work with, they work with marketers. Who offers you a money-back guarantee? Nobody. So that truly is a differentiating. We don't do long-term contracts. We have a 96% annualized client retention rate, despite the fact we don't do long-term contracts, because our entire company is built on our mission of help others, and a culture of attracting people who are really generous, people who have a good heart for others. We've built our entire company on that. And that's why we've been a best workplace 5 years running. And by also listening to our franchisor and franchisee partners, like one of the best things a business owner can do when it comes to product development is listen to your customers and ask them what's going good in their life. What are some of the challenges that they're facing? And then think strategically, how can I help them and solve those problems for them? And you do that with a heart of goodness. But at the same point, that will then turn into new revenue streams for you and new products. It's really what business is built on, solving problems. And if you just do it with a heart for others, everything really seems to take care of itself when packaged up in a disciplined system.
Well, let's rewind a little bit. Who was a young Joe? Was he into computers? I mean, was he into sales? Who was a young Joe?
Yeah, young Joe. I started my first business actually in grade school. I was a serial entrepreneur from the point I was really young. And so I took care of kids or people like kids in the neighborhood when they went out of town or their parents went out of town. We took care of their dog when they went on vacation. So that started really young. And then from there, at a young age, I got introduced to like network marketing. And I was a total, goofball kid calling up grown adults saying, "Hey, I got this great business opportunity for you and let's check it out." And some really good natured adults listened to me and humored me a little bit. And at the same point, I realized, hey, I want to get out of this because I don't want people to understand how young I really am. So let's go digital and on the internet. So this is like 1997. So I started up my first company then, and we started doing internet marketing and those types of things. And then from there, I pivoted and launched another company that got involved in credit card processing and payment processing today. That company I'm no longer involved with, but it's processing over $2 billion worth of transactions a year right now. And then from there, I got a job at that company called Fathom. Started there as employee number 8, worked my way up to VP of operations, grew it to 180 teammates. And then from there, I launched ChoiceLocal. But what was cool about that and kind of the catalyst for how all this started is I always said I wanted to be successful so that I could help people. And when I was working at Fathom, I was working about 60 hours a week, all in on the business. Had a great wife and kids, but when I was home, I was working a lot, so I wasn't there a lot. And then when I was home, I wasn't mentally there. I was thinking about work. And then one day, late into a pregnancy, my wife and I walked into an ultrasound room and found out that our son had no heartbeat and we lost him. And for me, that was a wake up call. Like, I don't want to live a life just to maximize wealth. I want to help people and I want to help them now. And I don't want to wait anymore. And that's when I left my previous company. And that's how I started ChoiceLocal with that mission of help others, that big, hairy, audacious goal of taking 10% of the profit. Taking 10% of the profits out of the company and using it to help kids in need with that big, hairy, audacious goal, helping 10,000 kids a year. We then took our mission and really made it more than just to give back, help others. Like our mission's help others, but it's helping our partners, which we call, clients, we call partners. We don't have clients, we have partners. Helping our partners' dreams and aspirations become a reality. And then helping our teammates' dreams and aspirations become a reality. We don't have employees, we have teammates. So that language matters. It's really important. So those are some really important things that we've implemented, as I've kind of gone through this personal process in my own life, and I'm trying to help our teammates and even businesses we work with not repeat some of the same mistakes that I made.
All right, there's a couple things to unwind there. Now, talked about kind of like the roadmap of getting to where you are today. And I mean, was there any schooling, like high school, college, in that kind of period of time from transitioning from the young kid that was kind of helping people out to the network marketing to where you are now?
Yeah, I was a political science major at Ohio State. And I'm in marketing. I was a marketing minor, but I'm gonna be honest, I didn't learn a thing in college that I use today. College, I'm not a big believer in it, to be honest. If you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be an electrical engineer, then I think college is great. But the best way to learn is just to get in and constantly learn, constantly seek mentorship. I've had some fantastic mentors over the course of my career. People that have run companies that grew to 300 million, sold the companies for 300 million. People that took those companies to IPO and were publicly traded and led organizations with thousands of people. I had the opportunity to talk with them. I'd go out to lunch with them once a month, and was so blessed to have these mentors. And they'd just be like, "Hey, what's on your mind? Tell me what you're going through." And I'd tell them. And then he'd ask me some questions and teach me and mentor me. And that's that. And that plus just doing, that's really where we learned how to do this and how we're building what we're building.
So for people listening right now that maybe are thinking about getting a mentor, how did you find the right mentors? Was it people you worked with, or was there networking, or how did you find the right mentors over the years?
There's a lot to that. The first thing is being humble enough to know that you can learn something from every single person. Every single person that you run into, you can learn something from, no matter what it is. And you have to have that humility and that hunger and that desire to learn. And that's the first thing. And then when you do have that humility, you're going to start running into really fantastic people. And if you just go up to them and say, hey, would you mentor me? They're going to be flattered and they're going to say yes. So there's a guy by the name of Andreas Widmer. He wrote the book, The Pope and the CEO. Really fantastic story. The guy was a Swiss guard, those guys that kind of wore like the funny costumes that, next to, the Pope. And he saw John Paul II up close and personal every day for 15 plus years. And then after he left the Swiss guard, he went into business, became very successful, then went bankrupt, lost a lot of money. Remembered the lessons that he learned from seeing the servant leadership of John Paul II up close every single day of his life, and then took that and put it into business and became very successful. And now he's the director of entrepreneurship at Catholic University. He spoke at a conference. I said, would you mentor me? So he spent some time with me and he taught me how to be a better servant leader. And then I've taken that into what I do. In addition to that, at my other company, there were people that were investors in that company that were highly, highly successful people that have done a lot in the past. And then now they own a lot of companies. So you just go up to them and say, hey, I'm really impressed with what you've done. Can you tell me more about it? And would you mentor me? They're flattered. They love that. And it's just a great opportunity to do that. And the other thing that I'll add is when working in business and you see somebody who's doing what you want to be doing, just ask them. You can go on LinkedIn and you can ask. If you get a personal recommendation to them, it's always going to be much more powerful. But just ask, and it's the best way to learn. In addition to podcasts and all of those things are just amazing sources where you can get this information. You can learn very quickly.
Well, and then let's try it the other direction. I mean, if someone's looking to get mentored by you, right? What does that person have to do? Because I know I get asked. Not all the time, but sometimes people ask me, hey, can you help me out with this? I usually have to give them some kind of task that they have to do to see if they're actually ready to actually grow or looking to just waste my time. Is there anything you do to make sure that mentee is a good fit for you?
I'll always say yes, and we'll always do lunch. And I'll try to give them advice on that. And sometimes it's pointing them in a direction. Sometimes that's other things. Sometimes I met with a guy. I talked to him for 45 minutes. I didn't remember his name. I didn't even remember the interaction. And 15 years later, I heard through somebody that conversation was life-changing for that individual because he was about to do something in a business and risk his life savings and then raise all this outside capital. And I said, do this first, then this, then this. You'll mitigate all of that risk. You'll be able to test this out first, and you'll be able to keep more equity in your company. He took that advice and did it. And it saved him a whole bunch of heartache, and he kept a lot more equity as a result. I didn't even remember the interaction. So sometimes those short interactions can be really powerful. There's another organization that I'm involved with too. It's called Christian Businessmen Connection. There's also Christian Businesswoman Connection, and they have these groups called Trusted Advisors. So in these Trusted Advisors group, you basically get together, and it's from a Christian worldview, a servant leader worldview. And you'll get a group of CEOs together in these Trusted Advisors group once a month for 3 hours. And it starts off with some prayer. Then you have like a business lesson. Then you have kind of a little bit more of a group teaching. And then one of the CEOs or executives says, here's a challenge I'm facing personally or professionally. And here's my challenge. And here's where I'd like input and help from the group. And the collective learning, and it basically works out where for the first 10 minutes, they explain it. For the next 10 minutes after that, everybody asks questions and they're not allowed to do anything except ask questions. And then people give advice afterwards. And collectively, what that person learns is transformative for their business. But I'm constantly learning from the other guys in the group as well, too. It's a really great system. And for me, it works really well too, because we really trust each other. We're brothers. I'm as close to these guys as I am to my own brother, who I'm deeply close with. So, it's very powerful.
Well, the key thing is, I think, in that is asking the questions, right? Because we start correlating our own backstory to the issues that people have until I ask questions. That's fantastic. Now let's jump forward. Okay, so you talked about your son basically passed away, and that triggered you to start your own business. What kind of timeline are we talking about from the point that actually happened to you actually starting the new company?
It was the summer of 2012 when we found out we lost him. And I knew within a day or two I wanted to make a change. So talked to my wife about it. We actually wrote our mission of help others. We wrote our core values, integrity in all things, amazing customer service, candor with goodwill, family, giving, and everybody a leader. All that existed prior to even having a business plan because it was that fundamental to who we are. Like the family core value. No one should ever have to make a decision. Do I get the best medical care for myself or my loved ones, or do I pay my bills? It's no one that works as ChoiceLocal is ever going to have to make that decision because it violates our value of family. In addition, work-life balance, that was built into that family core value where I don't want anybody to make the same mistakes that I made and work too much, especially earlier in their career when they're kind of figure things out. That's all built in. And then from there, I wrote a business plan. I had this background in digital marketing. I kind of looked at it and realized, oh my goodness, there's this ginormous opportunity here, at least this $80 million business opportunity. And it's tremendous. But at the same point, I had a lot of respect for the folks that I was working with at Fathom and some of the ownership there. So I didn't want to compete against them. So I was like, so I built a plan where I don't compete against them. We're serving different segments of the market. At the same point, at the time, I had 4 kids. My wife wasn't working, and I was like, if this fails, like, we're kind of hosed. So I was like, how do we mitigate that risk and also reward good people for doing good things? And when I was able to work out a position where I transitioned out of my role running operations at the old company, and my salary gradually went down over the course of a year. I got some seed capital and some free rent when we launched the company, and they got a minority position in the company that was fair, but not ridiculous. And it was a nice win-win all around. And they've had a huge ROI from that investment for sure. And we're just getting started. So that time period lasted like in October of 2015, I went full time into the business. I started tinkering with it in 2014 on like nights and weekends. And I wouldn't rob myself of time with my wife and kids. So I basically would work like 40 hours at my other job. And then I'd hang out with my wife and kids until like 10:30 at night. And then I would work from like 10:30 at night until like 3:30 in the morning. And then I would sleep for a few hours and I'd get up and I'd do that again. I was like 2 years on Monster Energy drinks. Not good. I wouldn't recommend it. It was crazy. But man, it's been a great ride. It really has been. So, man.
So you talked to your leadership there, and you told me you had the idea of doing something. I mean, what was that like? Because I mean, I bet you there are a lot of people listening that are in the corporate world, and they're thinking about transitioning, starting their own company, yet maybe afraid how their management at the current company is going to react to them wanting to leave their company. I mean, what was that process like for you?
Well, there's certain people that are generous, and there's certain people that also understand what's in their self-interest. And in this case, I was dealing with somebody that understood what was in their self-interest, and they also are generous. It is a company that what I was working at the time when I was working with Scott and working with Kevin. They were big believers in this apprenticeship model where you teach and develop people of talent to run their own companies. And they did that with me. And their expectation is that their executives eventually will leave and run their own companies. And their hope is that in some way they get to partner with them in that company. So it was given that culture, it was safe for me to do that. And then also the fact that it was in their self-interest. So if I went in and basically said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to compete against Lee Drecu, I'm launching my own business and that's it, the reaction would have obviously been different. But instead I looked at it from you got to repay generosity with generosity. They've been generous to me. How can I be generous back to them? So first and foremost, I'm going to tell them I'm going to be upfront about this. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, we'll see where this goes. There might be an opportunity for us to partner in some way, shape, or form on this down the road. So I told them that. And at the same point, I was driving a lot of value at that company. So for them to just push me out would have not been in their interest as well, too. So you kind of got to look at all of those things. if you're working with somebody that is a me first person and only thinks about themselves, and you got a bad values match there, you probably can't do that with that type of person. You've got to probably find another way to do it. But in this case, I was blessed with a good setup, and both of us understood how to work through that situation.
So that culture was like ingrained in the company.
Yeah.
It's okay to grow.
Yeah.
When you built your company or were building your company, did you want to incorporate any of that kind of culture into your company? I mean, is that kind of a mindset you currently have, or?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a book written about Warren Buffett called Snowball. And basically it tells Warren Buffett's story of how he took these companies at a very young age. He worked basically at a paper route, and he wouldn't spend any of the money, and he would just take it and he would invest it. And he had this little tiny snowball. And then over time, he developed a track record by implementing Benjamin Graham's kind of methodology of managing wealth and investing, of a proven track record of winning. And then he took to other people and said, let me manage your money for you, and then I can get more for it for you. And then he got so successful at that with his own takeaway, he started taking his own money. And that's how Berkshire Hathaway happened. And that's how at one point he was the wealthiest man in the world. Mm-hmm. And he basically had the snowball, and he just kept taking his investments and rolling them into other investments and other investments and other investments. It's very similar to the idea of this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where you basically, to oversimplify the book, to the main punchline is that you live below your means, and you take that excess and you invest it and keep doing that. So that's really how we've run ChoiceLocal. So out of ChoiceLocal, we are now launching a franchise system that is not like ChoiceLocal is the best at the world at getting new franchisees. We're the best at the world at marketing existing franchisees, and we're the best in the world at recruiting for talent through digital marketing. Those are all things a franchise system needs. And we're really good at that, and we're really good at discipline and process. So why shouldn't we be a franchisor? So we launched a franchise system that's going to have, we're expecting 2,000 locations in the US within the next 10 years. That's a separate company. There's a CEO running that, and it's not me. So that snowballing effect, that reinvesting is great. And then there's other people that I'm in talks with that some point might want to be franchisees or an owner franchisee within that franchise system. There's other folks that have some ideas of some SaaS companies that they would like to run down the road, and we're supportive of that and open to those conversations. But it's not something we push. But if someone has that entrepreneurial drive, somebody has that business ownership drive, somebody has that dream and aspiration, we're going to support them in that. And just like when I was working with Scott and Kevin, maybe we work together, maybe we don't, but I'm going to go more than halfway to help you in helping your dreams become a reality. And usually when you operate that way, the good comes back to you. So that's how we're doing it.
Well, talking about the drive that you had and you kind of building your company, what are some things that you wish you would have known before you went on your own to start your company?
It's always harder than you think it's going to be. And I don't think I wish I would have known that, but it's an important thing to know. So, that's one thing. But here's the other thing too that I just want to share, and then I'm going to answer your question. But I think this is important for entrepreneurs. The hardest part of running a business is the startup piece. Like when you're that one person operation, it is a grind, man. And you're doing everything. And we hire new teammates, and now we've developed new products and services. So I can't say this anymore, but several years ago, I could say there isn't a job in this company I haven't done because it was just me. But and that is good, because I think when you do these things, it gives you a greater appreciation for what's involved, and it helps you lead and manage it better. And I think that's important. But some of the stuff that I wish I would have learned early in my career, whether that's about launching this business or just being a leader in general, is that it's so important to be a multiplying leader. And even if you're the person who historically has done a ton and been able to get a lot done and are smart and you can make fast decisions and you can get stuff done, you need to get to that next level by asking questions. Even if you know what the answer is going to be, ask questions and you can learn something and you can get to a better place, and you can use questions to kind of guardrail things when things are kind of going off course and you're like, all right, I think we're making a strategic mistake here. Then you can start to ask questions to lead the group around. But earlier on in my career, I would come in and say, this is the way I think we should do it. Here's why. Here's how we're going to execute it. Go team. And that works, but not nearly as well as saying, this is our big, awesome vision of what we want to get to. Isn't it exciting? Now, what are our strengths and opportunities right now to help us get there, and our weaknesses that can prevent us from getting there? And what are the things that we need to change in the next 90 days to help us accomplish this vision? And shut up and listen. And that's the most important thing, because you got a lot of smart people and good people around you if you've hired right. Like, don't be the idea guy. Like, shut up and listen and learn, even if you already have the ideas, and then you can learn. Don't be that idea guy. Don't be that ideal gal. Be humble enough to listen. And that took me probably the first 5 years of my career to learn. And I had mentors that kind of taught me that. So that was a very good lesson that I learned. One other thing that a mentor taught me once too, it's a guy, his name's Kevin, and he was a controller at a company that I worked with and he was such a talented guy, but such a likable guy. Like, everybody loved Kevin. And one day I was like, Kevin, you're really awesome what you do, and everybody loves you. And again, it's just that humility to ask, can you tell me how you do it? And then I'm expecting like this really long, conversation about it. It was like a 10-minute conversation. And this is what he told me. He's like, you know how in most business conversations, people hop into the business conversation, they start off and they like talk about the weather, or they talk about business and just get right into business. He's like, for the first 5 minutes of an hour-long meeting, all I do is I ask them about them and their personal life, and then I remember it, and then I ask them about that the next time I see them, and I always lead with that. I don't end a meeting with it. I lead with it. That's why. That's it. It's very simple. So lead with the personal. It's so important. And especially if you want to be that servant leader type of person, but you're also a driven type of person, it's important to remind yourself of that and then do it. And it's really incredible. It's really incredible when you do that, because you build such great connections and great friendships by doing that, which is frankly just, you should focus in the human element of anybody, focus on their heart. And when you do that, just really beautiful things happen personally as well, business wise.
So is that what you usually do, is talk about the person before you actually talk about like the vision or their work history, or what are they doing with your team and your at the office?
Yep, that's right. I meet a new person, a new teammate. What I always try to do is tell me about yourself. And then the other question that I like to ask is, what are you passionate about? What do you like? What do you like? And I don't care what it is. Like one of the things that's important, like when we're hiring, we're looking for somebody that's passionate about something. Don't really care what it is, but you have to be a passionate person. Because if you ain't passionate about something, you ain't gonna be passionate about working here. But if you're passionate about something, then you can be passionate about working here, because it's a pretty great place to work. But then find what they're passionate about, take note of it, and then ask them about it. And like, even at, like, I'm not really into video games. Like I'll play like Madden football with my boys. That's about it. I don't really like doing it, but there's some folks that are really into it. And there's one guy here in particular in the past that loved playing video games, and that's really the only thing he was passionate about that I could tell. So I like started Googling some stuff about it. It took like 2 minutes, and then when I saw him, I started asking him questions about it, and it built a connection. It took like 2 minutes. It's just very, very worth it.
No, that's a great nugget right there. Where do you see yourself and your business going in the next 5 years?
By the end of the decade, we will be, by market share, the number one player in franchising at ChoiceLocal. And Broadview Dental Group will be well on its way to being the largest provider of dental care within the United States. And you say those things and they sound a little aggressive, you might say, but if you don't think big, you're never going to get there. If you don't think big, you're never going to get there. ChoiceLocal started as a one-person company. I did the math ahead of time. I knew what the market was. I knew what the market opportunity was. I knew if we grabbed a certain percentage of that market that we could grow to that 600 people. And that percentage is, it's not ridiculous. It's very attainable. The math worked out. And then from that point out, it's execution. And the same thing with Broadview. Now, there is one thing that I don't even know if it existed when I started my career, but I wish I would have known about it 5 years ago. There's this book called Traction, an entrepreneurial operating system. Take that, implement it in your business. It works in any business. I'm dead serious. I'm not a read the book and do it kind of guy, as evidenced by my not huge belief in college education. But even though I had one, it's just it was of no value to me. But that particular Rocket Fuel is another book you can read that kind of talks about that from more of an executive standpoint. But you take that, you implement that in the system with the quarterly priorities and the guarantees and the L10 meetings. It gives such discipline and alignment through a business that it can really help you do things in a really profound way. That's very, very powerful, and any business owner should use it. I really strongly believe it.
Joe, I appreciate you being on the Road to Growth podcast today. I'm going to finish off with this one last question. Do you think if you didn't have that tragedy in your life, that you would have transitioned into starting your own company, or did you need something like that or something else to push you on the path that you are on today?
I needed that to push me on the path that I'm on today. I think I would have eventually owned a business, but it just would have been like a business that you do for a lifestyle, and then you sell it and that's it. Instead, what it is, I want to own and run businesses that are transformative on their industry and the people that they touch, that touch hearts, touch souls, and make their lives better in a tangible and intangible way. And that never would have happened had I not done this. And even like a lot of the stuff that I do in the press and stuff, like a lot of that is on purpose-driven business. I believe we're headed in the decades ahead into transition into a purpose-driven economy. But I would have never had that happen had we not lost Ben. And from that standpoint, I'm really, in a weird way, happy it happened, because so much good and beauty's come out of it.
Well, again, thank you for being here today, Joe. If someone's listening and they're looking to start a franchise, or someone's looking to start franchising out their company, what's the best? And they're looking for some digital marketing help. What's the best way of them reaching you, getting some more information about your guys' company? What's the best way of going forward?
Absolutely. ChoiceLocal.com. That's the best way. You can also follow ChoiceLocal on pretty much every social media channel. And then I do some stuff on Twitter too. You can follow me individually at Help Others Joe on Twitter. It's just Help Others Joe on Twitter. And really, I'm not talking about franchising there. It's just more purpose-driven business stuff. It's just something I'm passionate about. My hope and my dream is we build this business that is servant leadership, that gives back. ChoiceLocal is a faith-based business, which just means that faith is welcome in our business. We're very inclusive. But I hope that other companies see that you can be amazingly successful in business, but give back and be successful and replicate that. And that's really my passion on this stuff. So I really appreciate your time today, Vinny. I appreciate the honor of being on. This is the really great stuff that you're doing on Road to Growth.
No, and I appreciate it. For people listening right there, I think there's so many nuggets that Joe threw out there, and you're probably gonna have to listen to this maybe once or twice or even 3 times to get all the nuggets. And I think one of the big things that I took away, that's something that took me a while to learn, is everyone has some information provide to you if you're willing to listen. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be someone that you think is lower on the totem pole than you, yet they've lived their life. There's stuff that they've gone through, and there's stuff that they can teach you if you're willing to listen. So giving people a chance, open up. Like my father always told me, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, use accordingly. Just shut that mouth and listen to people. Well, thank you guys. Please subscribe, please share, and go find Joe. Bye, everyone.